What is up, and welcome back to another episode of Blood and Beer, the show where we talk blood sport and we drink beer. I'm your host, Matt, and as always, we've got MMA to talk, we've got some beers to drink. We're sipping on some Mickeys today, and the MMA we're recapping UFC London. We had Sean Brady taking on Leon Edwards in the main event. It was a card that happened. On paper, this card was a B+, A-. It was great. Prelims were absolutely ass. Main card was up and down. It had some terrible fights. It had some good fights. We're going to get into it all, break it all down, see what's next. If any of these guys earn their way to the next level, to a title shot, we're going to talk about it all. But first, our bets that we had this week. If you've been following, there's three of us betting. Me and Cody, who do the show on Wednesday, and then my friend Noah that comes in on the pay-per-views, big cards. He gives us his bets each week as well. So this week, none of us were positive. Cody went down 460. Noah lost all 1,000. He put $1,000 on Gunnar Nelson and Leon Edwards to win on a parlay. So he lost it all. And me, I'm down $30.32. I can live with that on $1,000. It's not terrible. We're having a great year. We're up still over $2,000. Me and Cody. Noah is down, I think $1,240 year to date or $1,250. So he's not having a great year. But you fade him, you follow us. You follow our bets, you tail them. That's how it works. But the fights this week, none of us had great picks, but like I said, I did all right. I almost went even at least. No money made. But we'll kick things off. We'll just break it down as it goes. We're going to start with the main card, Leon Edwards versus Sean Brady. In this fight, there was one of two ways it was going to go. Leon was going to stuff the takedowns or he wasn't. Starts off early, it's pretty even in the stand-up, but close to the end of round one, Brady gets that takedown. He figures out how to get that takedown, and he continues that for the rest of the fight, just dominating Leon on the ground. He had some nice moments in the stand-up as well, but just absolutely dominating on the ground. And then he gets a guillotine in round four when Leon shoots a naked takedown. Nothing to set it up, just shoots it right into the guillotine, and Sean Brady, dude, looked amazing. He's taken Leon's number one spot by getting this win. And I said it in our preview to this card. I said Sean Brady can win a title shot if he gets the victory here, but what he has to do is he has to look dominant and he has to get a finish. And he did both of those things. Absolutely dominated Leon Edwards on the ground. And then he gets a finish in round four after he shows you what he can do with his ground and pound, with his top control. And this wasn't a boring grappling style fight where one guy gets taken down and just held there. No, Sean Brady was throwing punches. Every time Leon tried to get into a scramble to protect his head, Sean Brady was either dropping down elbows or swinging just wild hooks from the ground and pound. Gets it done. Give him a title shot after this JDM Bilal fight on 314. I think he jumps Shavkat at this point. I know Shavkat took the fight with Ian Gary, so that should put him in good graces. But then he has to pull out of this 314 fight. Sean Brady, he's looking great. If you want to, you could do Brady versus Shavkat for the title eliminator just to keep the guys busy. But I say you give it to Brady. Make Shavkat fight one more time. The timelines add up for Brady and Bilal or Brady and Edwards. I'd love to see the rematch with Brady and Bilal because that first fight was in Abu Dhabi. Brady took it a little short notice, and you could tell he was jet lagged. By the end of the first round, Bilal just had the guy completely gassed, and that's not Brady's game. Dude has a criminal gas tank. I mean, he uses that like it's a weapon. He's got such good cardio. So give Brady the title shot. That's what I want to see. Let me know your thoughts on that. Am I crazy? Should we give it to Shavkat just because he took that fight with Gary, even though he's hurt, or do we give it to Brady after a dominant performance like that, beating the number one guy without any questions? There wasn't even a moment in that fight where it was close. There was one time in the fight where Leon had landed 18 strikes to Sean Brady's 194 at the end of the third round. So that's as dominant as it gets. That's all I got for the main event, though. So we'll move down to the co-main, and this fight sucked. Jan Blachowicz, he took on Carlos Ulberg, and Blachowicz did what he does. He went shin to shin on the kicks. He's kicking him in the shin. He's checking with the shin. Does his thing. A lot of staring at each other this fight, just waiting. Both guys had little moments, nothing too significant. It ends up going with Ulberg by split decision. I had it for Blachowicz, but it could have gone either way. It was such a non-fight. It was just is what it is. And then afterwards, Ulberg gets on the mic, calls for the title shot. And we said on last week's show, just like with the Brady fight, you can get a title shot here. You got to have a dominant performance, finish. None of that happened. None of that. He gets on there, calls for the title shot. This guy, he beat Volkan Ozdemir. beat Jan Blachowicz. Now, I think we're looking at Carlos Ulberg around the 5-6 range for a fight. So maybe you give him an Alexander Rakic. Maybe you give him Dominic Reyes. Wouldn't be a terrible matchup for him. I don't know. He's in this weird space where you had the shot, you blew it, and you're too far down in the rankings to, just be like, all right, this guy had a. You haven't done anything impressive yet. You went to decision with Ozdemir, decision with Blachowicz, and it was split with Blachowicz. Maybe should have lost that. I don't know. I wasn't impressed by the fight. I thought it sucked. So we'll move on to a fight that was weird. It didn't suck. It was great for my bets. Kevin Holland, baby. You ride with your dogs, you die with your dogs. And Kevin Holland, I rode with you this week. I knew you were going to get it done because Gunnar Nelson's a small grappler, and Kevin Holland struggles with big grapplers. So in this fight, Kevin Holland's doing real good work at the beginning of the fight on the feet, catching him with his long strikes, leg kicks, trying to eliminate that wrestling. But Gunnar gets a takedown at the end, or in about the middle of the first round, and holds him there. But Kevin Holland's throwing up omoplatas, he's throwing elbows from his back, he's throwing strikes from all over. And Gunnar Nelson picks him up while Holland has him in a half omoplata. Nelson's just holding him like this while Holland's entire body is draped on his arm. And then they get into a weird scramble. Nelson ends up on his back, and then they split, stand up. Kevin Holland lands a nasty straight right from the outside, drops Nelson, gets on top, starts raining ground and pound, knocks him out, brings him back to life with a punch. And then as the bell rings, maybe right when the bell rang, but he threw it, it landed as the bell rang, blast Nelson on the ground. Just Nelson stood up, wobbly legs, all messed up. So he stumbles back to his corner. I thought they were going to stop it because he was so messed up. But he comes back, he gets two, he gets with it. Gets another takedown. Again, no work by Gunnar Nelson, though. Kevin Holland throwing elbows off his back, throwing up triangles, doing everything he can to get work in, throwing backhand, back fist, throwing elbows, everything you can imagine. He's doing work. Same thing in round 3. Nelson had a couple moments where he could have gotten a submission potentially, but he didn't. Holland walks away with unanimous decision. Plus 110, plus 115 dog, wherever you're looking. I knew it was going to happen. He's not going to lose to a small grappler. He's a really good grappler. It's just he's not a really good wrestler. So when you're wrestling him and you got 40 pounds on him, he's fucked. I knew Holland was going to win, though. That's why we put money on him. That's why we almost went positive this week. It's okay. It's okay. You live and you learn. You lose some. We have some big weeks. We have some not. So next up, we had Alexa Tainara. She made her UFC debut, I believe. It was because her first fight was on the Contender Series. She took on Molly McCann, gets a round 1 rear naked choke, dominates the ground control the ground game the entire fight. Molly McCann retires afterwards. She was a cult figure, I guess, but she wasn't a really great fighter. She had one moment where she got to the top 15 and she fought Erin Blanchfield, gets her arm broken off. I thought she was going to have a spiral fracture from that Kimura. But retires, says, Dana, if you need an ambassador, I'm your girl. She'd be great for it. She's, like I said, a cult figure, fan favorite, but not really a great fighter. So not the worst thing to see her go out. She knows that she can't hang with these young grapplers. She can strike with anybody, but if you're going to grapple with her, you're going to beat her, you're going to submit her. And that's just where she is. It's okay. It's okay to walk away, and good for her. She put on a ton of fun fights. 2 spinning back elbow knockouts in a row. Only person to ever do it. Only person that will ever do it, because that was insane. And both of them were like the exact same spinning back elbow up against the cage. But I digress. Kudos to Molly McCann. You had a decent career. Happy trails. And then the main card opener. No, not main card opener. We had Chris Duncan. He took on Jordan Vucenic. The epidemic Vucenic. Everybody's high on this guy, and I don't know why. He's not really good at striking, and he's not really good at grappling. Ton of submissions over in Cage Warriors, but the jiu-jitsu over in the European game isn't quite up to snuff with UFC, so you see a lot of these guys come over and then they don't get submissions. Anyways, this fight goes down. Chris Duncan drops Vucenic early in round 1. Dominates the ground game from there. Ground and pound, just dominant wrestling. Looked like a beast. Not a lot happened, though. Round 2, more of the same as far as on the feet. It's a little back and forth. I think Duncan's getting the better work. Vucenic shoots a takedown. Chris Duncan jumps the ghillie. He's been training at ATT with Dustin Poirier. He jumps the ghillie, gets the submission. Everybody said, no, it's not in. He had an arm-in guillotine. He gets it. He's 4-1 in the UFC now. 2 submissions in a row. This dude's a grinder. He's gonna find your weakness, and he's like Bilal, but more interesting kind of. He's just gonna find your weakness. He's not better anywhere, but if he can strike with you, he's got decent power. He's got decent boxing. If you're not great on the ground, he's gonna take you to the ground and fuck you up there. He's just gonna. He's a fun little fighter, this Chris Duncan from Scotland. I like him. I wasn't big on him when he came to the UFC. I thought this is a guy to fade. They're going to give us plus 185 odds on him versus minus 225 type things. No, this dude's an upset. And he's getting an upset each time out because he's overlooked every time. So that was a fun fight. That was one of the few fun fights on this card because this card was lackluster as it get. You had the main event. That was awesome. Kevin Holland's fight was fun. I wouldn't say it was awesome because of all the groundwork. Even though Holland was throwing, it was like one-sided from his back. McCann Thainara, that was a quick one. Not that fun. Ulberg Brady was just bleh. And the main card opener was also pretty bad. It had a knockdown that was really fun in the beginning. Nathaniel Wood versus Morgan Charrier. And Nathaniel Wood, he knocks down Charrier early, gets him dropped. Jumps on top of him. Charrier starts throwing up triangles and submissions, but Nathaniel Wood just does absolutely nothing after the knockdown in the first round. And then rounds 2 and 3, Charrier is just not as fast on the feet. He's not able to keep up with Nathaniel Wood. So it was just a really boring fight, I thought. Just these guys standing there looking at each other. Occasionally a combination would come through, but a lot of it was one shot, two shot. Just you go, I go. Nathaniel Wood's faster. It was a bad fight. And the prelims truly sucked. Seven fights on the prelims. We had 6 decisions, 1 submission. So, the 7 fights. Chris Padilla had the worst, hard to say worst fight of the night because Morgan Charrier versus Nathaniel Wood, that's not going to get it because of the knockdown. Carlos Ulberg versus Jan Blachowicz, that's close for worst fight of the night. Chris Padilla versus Jai Herbert, that's another close one. Chris Padilla threw about 6 leg kicks around. That's it. Jai Herbert probably out-jabbed him, outstruck him, but it was just such a boring fight where these guys were afraid to do anything. Herbert upset about the split decision loss. I thought it could have gone either way because neither guy did shit in that fight. So, is what it is. Alright, sorry about that. And then the fight that preceded. Lonnie Kavanaugh, he took on Felipe Dos Santos. Round 1 was fun as hell in this one. Fun fight. Dos Santos is wrecking Kavanaugh on the feet. Kavanaugh's having some success as well. He's landing some boxing combinations. But Dos Santos' pressure, his activity, his motor is causing a real problem for Kavanaugh. He's catching him. He's hurting him. Kavanaugh, rounds 2 and 3, recognizes this. Takes Dos Santos down. He says, I'm not going to let you do anything. I'm just going to hold you here. You can try to do your triangles. I'm going to hold your legs down with my elbows. I'm going to throw. He did throw some nice ground and pound in round 2. Round 3 was just blah, whatever. But Dos Santos had Kavanaugh split in round 1. Spinning back elbow, gets it. But he doesn't get the decision. Unanimous decision goes with Lonnie Kavanaugh. Is what it is. Is what it is. It was a boring last 2 rounds. So he did what he needed to do. I guess one of the few undefeated prospects to stay undefeated this year. We're going to be fading undefeated all year. That's my new thing, is betting against undefeated fighters. Undefeated fighters this year are 10 and 18 in the UFC. That's insane, especially when they're not all, because Clayton Carpenter came in as a pretty big dog. But for the most part, they're coming in as massive favorites. Lonnie Kavanaugh was a 2-1 favorite in this one. And it was a close fight. He had to implement his wrestling, which we haven't seen from him yet. So this fight it showed us something. Kavanaugh, very well-rounded. He's got good ground and pound, but when he's scared of that triangle, he's not going to use it. And I get it. Dude's from Shoot a Box. Dude's a beast. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, their motor, their striking, it's all insane. These guys are savages. Felipe Dos Santos, though, I got to say about this guy, because, like I said, Kavanaugh gets the unanimous decision win, but Felipe Dos Santos, as a 1-3 fighter in the UFC, this has got to be the best 1-3 fighter in UFC history. Kicks off his UFC career, short notice fight against Manel Kopp, gets a split decision loss, but it was close. Then he has a dominant performance in his second outing, loses his third, I can't remember who it was against, but it was a close one. Dude's a beast. And then Kavanaugh's a prospect. Put him up against Dos Santos. It's a test. I want to see Dos Santos get an easy matchup because this dude's fun as hell, and he could be a problem if they match him correctly. But he's clearly not a guy they're focused on matchmaking for. He's a pawn in the scheme. They're like, this is a dude that will put on a fight but get beat by the top guys. I had Dos Santos here, so that broke my heart. But is what it is. We move on and we digress. So Marcin Tybura, he picked up a unanimous decision win over Mick Parkin. Another O has to go. Mick Parkin came into this fight 10-0, and Marcin Tybura did what he needed to do. Outstruck him a little bit with the jab. It was a bad fight, just boring. Tybura stifles offense, which if you can get offense on him, off on him, you're going to beat him, but it's so hard to get offense off on this guy. He's going to get in your face. He's going to hold on to you, take you down like a giant bear, and try to lay on you. He didn't do that so much against Parkin. Parkin actually had a lot more control time and more significant strikes in this, but Tybura gets 2 rounds to 1. Is what it is. Not a lot going there. And that was his last fight on the UFC contract for him. So he might go to somewhere like KSW. He might retire. He might just do fun fights. UFC might not want to re-sign him, but he is top 10, so they may. But we saw them let Jairzinho Rozenstruik go, who's a lot more entertaining. I don't know about a lot more entertaining because some of his fights fucking suck. But he has knockout potential. He more entertaining, less well-rounded than Marcin Tybura sometimes. I don't know. Just rambling, ranting. This card was what it was. I wish it was better. Man, when they go to the UK, it's usually fireworks. It's usually just knockout. And this time, I don't think we had one knockout, did we? No knockouts on this entire card. We had some submissions. We had Sean Brady. We had Chris Duncan. We had Sean O'Bannon. We had Alexa Tyne. 4 finishes on a 13-fight card. That's rough. So, moving on. Christian Leroy Duncan, the second Chris Duncan on this card, outclasses Andre Puliev. Puliev should not have been in there with him. Yeah, I don't know what to say. He outstruck him the whole time. Puliev was just running from him, scared to stand in front of him. But one thing that did come from this fight, because CLD's just been matched up against Scrub, so we don't know a lot about this guy still, even though he's so athletic and he's a beast, but he's still kind of new to MMA, so maybe they're bringing him along slowly. Anyways, he cashes our parlay for us. Him and Chris Duncan, without the Leroy, they cash our parlay at plus 381 odds. That was beautiful. We love the Chris Duncan parlays. We love the prop parlays. Shout out to Jed Michoud for getting me hip to the prop parlays. I did put mine in before you did, my friend, but I had you in mind when I thought of this. I saw Christian Leroy Duncan. I saw Chris Duncan. I said, how could you not? How could you not? So, we did. We cashed, and it is what it is. And then Sean O'Bannon. She got knocked out in round 2 by Pooja Tomar. Is her name Pooja Tomar? And she comes back turns it into an armbar submission. She actually looked like she got knocked out twice. A head kick and then some ground and pound. Turns it into an armbar submission. Gets a round 2 finish. The first finish of the fight. Or the first finish of the card. And shouts to her. I wasn't expecting a submission. I wasn't expecting an armbar out of either of these two. But, I mean, it is what it is. She's not a bad fighter, not a great fighter. Ireland wins. And Ireland won in the fight before that with Callum Loughran taking on Nathan Fletcher. He should not have won. He got beat up by Nathan Fletcher pretty bad. But he gets the win. It's a lot of cage work in this fight. Some top control. But it was just this was a really boring fight, like a lot of the other fights on this card. So, it is what it is. Callum Loughran gets another win in the UFC. Beats former Ultimate Fighter competitor Nathan Fletcher. I don't know what to say. It's not that impressive of a win. But he shouldn't have won. He should not have won. Don't let me forget to go back to this Dos Santos fight for a nasty little rant after this. But Guram Kute-Taladze killed me and Cody's ladder bets. Absolutely killed it. You're a 4-1 favorite and you lose. Go out there, you change your whole style. You're this wiry dude that gets people out of their motion. You're moving in these weird ways, shooting takedowns, strike. Not this fight. This fight, he was like, I want to try to be like Topuria. I'm going to do wide stance with my big, lanky body, and I'm going to get my fucking legs kicked off. And that's exactly what happened against Cowie Fernandez. Fernandez, round 1, kicks Guram Kute-Taladze's legs off. Rounds 2 and 3, Kute-Taladze had nothing. Absolutely nothing. So Fernandez comes away as a 4-1 dog, getting that getting that unanimous decision win. Absolutely heartbroken. GC over at the Ariel Helwani show. GC over with Uncrowned. What are you doing? Get your brother in check. My God, can't wait for Sean Brady versus GC on the what is it? The Aragon. I forget what the name of their bike is, but on the bike, I can't wait for it because we need Sean Brady to put GC and Guram Kutetaladze, the same person, but not the same person, allegedly, in their place. So that's what we got for the card. I do want to circle back to this fight with Felipe Dos Santos and Lonnie Kavanaugh. So boring a little bit in the second 2 rounds. The ref in this fight had to be the worst ref of all time. There is not a worse ref in MMA history. I'm talking Mario Yamasaki. I'm talking Steve Mazzagatti. There is not a worse ref in MMA history than this man. So Felipe Dos Santos gets warned for grabbing the cage in round 1. Grabs the cage again and again. 3 times in round 1. Just yells at him, no point taken. Okay, whatever. He says, you gotta stop grabbing the cage. No problem. Round 2, up kick to the head. Hey, he's grounded. You can't do that. Round 2, he throws 2 more up kicks to the head. And he says, hey, you can't do that. And then he follows it up with a 3rd up kick to the head. No points taken. Rules broken all over the place. It's crazy. Sorry, gotta text my wife back. I need more beer. Need more beers and ciggies, baby. Because Vinny Siggs is fighting next week, and that's what we're getting into next week, because it's a great card in UFC Mexico City. We got Brandon Moreno taking on Vinny Siggs, Steve Erceg. That's going to be a banger. And then we got Joe Pfeiffer taking on Kelvin Gastelum. Another scrap. Drew Dober versus Manuel Torres. That's going to be an absolute war. There's so many great fights on this card. I can't wait. And it's at 7,500 foot elevation, so make sure you're betting on the guys with the gas tanks. Joe Pfeiffer might not be that guy as a minus 375 favorite right now. Might not be that guy at 7,500 feet. We'll have to see because Kelvin Gastelum does not take his life very serious. So we don't know. We're going to have a card Wednesday for you. And that's what I got for you for this week's card. Thank you for tuning in. Try to put an episode up recapping this weekend's Cage Warriors card, which was crazy. Cage Warriors got into a Twitter feud with GFL. Cage Warriors did it all. So thanks for tuning in. I don't know what else to say. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. You can also find me on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, anywhere you get your podcasts. And follow me on X, Blood Beer Matt. I don't know what else to say. Let me know your thoughts on this card. Did you think it was as bad as I did? Because I thought this card really... It was a hard watch. It was a hard watch for such a great card. And you stuck around because you knew one of them had to be good. Thank God the last fight was all right. But thank you for tuning in. That's all I got for you today. This has been Matt with Blood and Beer.